Unmasked with special guest Judah Friedlander. His brand new Netflix special is debuting. Judah Friedlander. America is the greatest country in the United States. And now, coming to the stage, your host, Ron Bennington. And the world champion, Judah Friedlander.
The champ is here. The champ is here. Good to see you, Judah. How you doing today?
Doing pretty incredible.
So Halloween is going to be the release of. Is this your first special?
The first one I've ever done.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I've turned them down over the years.
Yeah.
I probably should have had about 5 or 7 out at this point. I've been doing stand-up since '89, so I should have had a bunch out. But for creative reasons and legal reasons, I've kind of turned them down.
Yeah.
No, because they used to have these things where it's like, let's say you did a special or an album, whatever company, corporation it was that was going to put it out, they would own not only that particular night where they filmed you, they would own all the writing and the material.
Right.
And I'm like, no, you don't get to own what I wrote. So I was always like, no.
Well, I know as we're doing this, it hasn't shown yet, but I saw this. This is written, directed, performed, everything by Judah Friedlander, and I have never seen a special like this before in my life. It's really, really incredible. I don't even know. I'm going to ask you right away. How did you even shoot this? I don't understand the camera work.
It was a mix of having, first of all, I just filmed regular shows.
Yeah.
I didn't film like, hey, I'm taping my special, come on out. And they bring in, 3 trucks full of camera equipment and smoke machines. And I wanted to make it like a regular night. So I filmed just regular nights here in the city. And some of it I filmed myself. I would just put up a little, camera on a little mini tripod or a clip and put it up there. And then and then sometimes I would hire some people to just hand hold the camera.
Right.
And so it was a real kind of, I wanted it to have, a realness and a rawness and an intimacy to it. So you actually feel like you're just there watching it, and so that's kind of, so I went with a low budget approach. I wanted it to look like, a Sex Pistols video from the 70s.
It is punk rock.
Or,
this is 100% punk
or,
rock.
like a Jim Jarmusch movie from the early 80s, like Stranger Than Paradise or something like that, kind of just an indie, do-it-yourself, low-budget, documentary style kind of vibe.
It really, first of all, it's in black and white, too, and you're just mainly getting a close-up of Judah on stage. You're not getting the things that we've seen a million times where it's cutting to some pretty girl laughing. It's just you're right there. But it feels to me like a film, like a documentary film.
I actually, when I was pitching it around, I called it a film, and then when Netflix, I licensed it to them, they said no, you have to call it a Netflix comedy original. It's a special. It's not a film. I'm like, well, it doesn't really fucking matter what you want to call it.
Right.
It's just like, but no, I consider it like a film. It's just like a stand-up performance film,
Well, and it's not like every special is an hour. Yours goes longer. Everything that you've done, people don't do, including just putting up a camera yourself and shooting this. Because I was with you last winter at a lot of sets, and you're like, yeah, I'm shooting a special. And I'm like, I don't know if you are. I don't And then he's like,
that might be the best review I've had yet.
But even when it came down to like, now I'm editing that special, I'm like, I don't know how this is going to sell. Yeah. But I watched it. Honestly, it's a stunning look, and it has like a Bob Dylan "Don't Look Back" whole vibe to it. It's like, here's the way that I was thinking. And
let's face it, I'm a great cinematographer.
Yes,
I think that's what you're trying to say.
Yes, you are. But the thing that was like blowing me away, because I've never really been a fan of regular specials for just the reason, like, for some reason they'll just put a giant shoe on the stage, and it doesn't really, you know what I mean? Like, here's what we're doing.
Yeah, I've never understood like you know, someone's got some goofy stage design, you know, with I don't know, or you know, then the crane shots, you know, these swooping cameras that are flying all over the place, and I just like I don't know, that's not what comedy's about.
No.
I don't think, you know. So I just wanted to, you know, try to capture a real experience. And I tell you, I filmed tons of shows, probably for a year or more before I actually kind of figured out like how to get it as close to the way I wanted it to look as I did. So there was a lot of trial and error.
But was it always going to be black and white right from the beginning?
No, it wasn't. I was initially going to have it just be more of a little bit of a muted color, and then then I started playing around in like the editing with like making things black and white, and I just thought it kind of like I'm like I think this just fits with what I'm doing and the way the whole project is. It's just everything just kind of fit together. You know.
Well, I'll also say this, and it seems strange to say, but when I was a kid, I listened to albums first before there were specials, and they
likewise,
and that was always so cool to me because I didn't understand where this was happening at, right? And I had like an image in my head, and that's what your film reminds me of that feeling of not only like I was like, you have to even be cool to be in that room. You know what I mean? When I was a kid, like, how do people know where this show is? How do they know where Carlin is or Richard Pryor?
Right.
So that was the feeling that I got immediately when I was watching this thing roll out, you know?
Yeah, I just wanted to keep it simple, you know? I mean, you know, I think if the material's good, you want to be able to just be engaged and come in with it. And even in when I make my own, like I make some short films here and there, I generally like a low budget look to things, and when I've acted in movies, I've always enjoyed acting in the low budget things better. Because when you have a low budget, you have to use and stand up comedy is a low budget art. It's just it's a mic stand and a mic and an audience. That's it. It's not a high tech art form. It's very simple. So I don't know why it should be filmed in such a high production value kind of way.
Yeah, it's
true. Like it's a simple art form. Film it in a simple way. And it's easy to digest, you know. I mean, the audience here, you guys aren't sitting on floating chairs that are like whizzing around the room and shit. You know, you just want a nice, comfortable seat where you can just fucking watch the show, you know.
But it is, you don't even get an intro of this. It just starts.
No, I hate intros. I hate fucking intros. But I can't stand. I think I've seen it done funny once or twice, where there was a stand-up special, and then there's that little pre-sketch.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and it's usually something contrived, like the comic's nervous or something. I'm like, if you're doing a special, and why are you fucking nervous doing a comedy show? Comedy is the most relaxing thing I do. It's like, whatever your profession is, you shouldn't be nervous when you're doing it or about to go to your job. This should be, you're a fucking professional. This should be what you're good at and what you're confident at. So I remember Stephen Wright's special, I believe it's I Have a Pony, his first special from the early 80s. That one had a short film, and it was really a short film. It wasn't a sketch, and it's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
It's really, really funny. But usually I'm like, okay, so you get this chance to do a stand-up comedy special, and then the first thing you do is put some fucking skit before the stand-up thing. And stand-ups, you know, many of them are always making fun of sketch and improv.
Yeah.
And then here you are with your big break, and you do a fucking skit right before your fucking stand-up show. Why are you fucking doing that? It's just like, get to the fucking thing. It's like, that's one thing I did learn on 30 Rock, with how they wrote and edited the things was like on 30 Rock, each episode I think was 22 minutes. But if they didn't have time constraints for TV, it would probably be like 26, 28 minutes. Mm-hmm. But they would cut and cut and cut and cut. So there was like no fat. It was just all action with the jokes. And so with this thing, I'm like, why waste the time of, oh, here he is coming on? Just fucking get right in. You know? And then let people, you know, the audiences are smart. Don't dumb it down. You know, you don't need to see the fucking intro and shit. And then just fucking get right to the jokes and get right to the meat of the material. Just start.
So when you shoot this thing, you edit it, it takes you a while. You go out and take this around. It doesn't look like a regular stand-up special. Were people confused when you first said, boom, here's this guy?
Well, I gave it to my agent. He liked it a lot. Netflix was his first choice. And it took a while, but then got the green light on it.
Right.
And then, you know, I did a little bit of, initially they wanted me to cut it down to an hour.
Yeah.
I didn't want to. I cut it down about 2-3 minutes, and I did. I think the original cut was 87 minutes, and this version's 84 minutes. And I think it actually is stronger with the bits that I cut out. It actually is stronger. So, and then I rearranged a little bit of the order of things. So, because initially there was more crowd work and, you know, the thing where I'm ripping on people from other countries, but I'm actually really kind of ripping on them. On my own country, or just doing both at the same time, really. Initially, there was much more of that up front, and then I moved some of the material, you know, the satirical stuff about USA being number one. I moved that up a little bit earlier because I felt that was, you know, getting more to some of the meat of the stuff earlier. So that a friend of mine, that was like his idea, because after editing it for so long, it's like I lose total. I mean, because I already wrote it and performed it,
right? And
now I've been editing it for months, and I'm like, I can't look at it anymore. I had to quit and walk away from it, so I couldn't have any judgment on it after a while.
What I also think is like so wild, and I never saw anyone do it. You don't fake the edits where it looks like, oh, this is happening here. You'll just fade to black for a second, and there's something in your own handwriting.
Yeah, I did all the titles myself,
yeah,
too.
It's
all
amazing.
The titles are handwritten by myself. And it'll just say, like one might say, Random Nights, New York City, February to May 2017. And then one might say, you know, June, New York 2017. You know, I think it's, you know, it's not like, this one isn't meant to be all in one night. It's a little more of a montage or a collage of different nights, and thematically it's all kind of strung together with a common theme, even though there is different stuff. And you know, there's one-liners, there's crowd work, and then there's long extended bits as well.
Yeah, they're all segmented out like that, but it does feel like you get the feeling of time with this, and that's another reason why it feels like a documentary. Okay. Like if you would have just broke it up with you eating breakfast or walking down the street, people would go, "Oh, this is a documentary film."
Right. Yeah, there's no interviews. There's no just. I don't know. To me, when you watch things, there's always so much stuff that's just repetitive. You know, where. You know, you'll have an establishing shot of the outside of the venue. Who the fuck cares what the outside of the venue looks like? You know?
You see your name in lights for a second.
Yeah. It's like, why? You know? Or then when a comic when in the special, they mention they're taping a special. It's like, why? That's just annoying narcissism. It's like, why? Just fucking do your fucking show. Don't... You know.
Well, that's a thing. Everything that you do is so uniquely you. Like even your crowd work is different than I've ever seen anybody do crowd work before.
Well, thanks. I mean, as a comic, I guess, and even if you're not a comic, if you're just a person, everyone should be theoretically different than everyone else. So, but you know, I mean, society. It's true. I mean, at your core, I think everyone is different. You know, if you're related to your family members, there should be some similarities theoretically because of genetics. But it's like society is always trying to make people conform.
Right.
Always, and it's everyone's oppressed on some level. You know, I mean, certain people are oppressed more than others, but this oppression to conform is just always there, and I've heard it throughout my career. You know.
Yeah.
I remember when well, like as far as like, you know, clubs wouldn't book me because I didn't wear a jacket, you know, or I had long hair, or I wore a hat. They wouldn't book me. You know, they didn't care what my act was like. They'd be like, nope, you know, and so it's just that kind of shit's always around. So you just got to be you, and I think as far as individuality goes, it's always a fight because society is always trying to make you not you, no matter what it is, whether it's your boss, whether it's whatever, you know. So
well, that is even, you know, that's the thing about the, you know, comics are always talking about freedom and being, you know, different, but everybody's forced into the same time if they go on, you know, the same 6 minutes if you're doing the Tonight Show, same 60 minutes if you're doing, you know, you're still getting into a box no matter what.
Oh yeah, they're. I mean, Hollywood always stereotypes always, and they don't. And many of the the gatekeepers in the industry, they don't have the creativity to see people in different ways. They have an idea of what this is. Like if I pitch this to a company and said, "Hey, this is the way I want to do it,"
Right.
I don't think it would have been greenlit.
You don't even have to think that. It
Yeah,
would
yeah,
not
yeah,
have been.
you know.
Because, like,
I mean, I actually, Showtime. I know someone who works at Showtime. And when I was like putting out some feelers there, I was like, hey, I made my own special. Let me know if you're interested. And this is someone who I've known a little bit over the years, and I had like a paragraph of what it was about, and in the paragraph I mentioned it's in black and white. I got like a 4-word email back. Yeah, we don't accept black and white. And then it said, would you consider releasing it in color? And I was like, no. So that was the pitch to Showtime.
Yeah.
That was the pitch to Showtime. Yeah.
But that's also something.
So I was like, wow, you won't even fucking look at it or
Yeah.
consider it. It's like, nope, okay, all right.
Because
They got their rules.
Yeah, they want them to kind of look the same, and they want them to look like.
Well, here's what it is. I think so much of it is, it's just these giant corporations. People don't think like there's a trailer out for that Netflix put together. I had some say in it because initially they made a cut. They don't consult with me first, and then they make the trailer. Then I'm like, well, I think we should really put different material in there. And like there's music in the trailer. And I'm like, there's no music in this special at all. There's zero music. And you got this fucking music jamming throughout the trailer. I think you're kind of misleading people a little bit. I mean, so I brought that up and they're like, well, we've their tests or their studies show that this is what's effective. I'm like, all right, if you want to not argue with a person and argue with just fucking weird data that you collected that probably makes no fucking sense. If that's the way you want to live, fucking go for it. So I'm like, all right, I'm not going to fight you on that. If you test market it, it must be 100% correct. So. Well, I mean, that's what's even interesting about like Trump. It's like if you look at the media, everyone was saying, oh well, he's definitely going to be falling off. When he was running, the media thought there was no fucking way he had a chance because they didn't have the fucking test markets on what he was doing. He was doing shit that was different, and same with Bernie even, and those two guys really captured, a lot of support, whether you like them or not, they captured a lot of support and they did it in a different way. And, just like, so I think a lot of these corporations are behind, they're not people. And yet they think they know what people want and how people work, and they fucking don't. So I think that's one of the reasons you see a lot of garbage in show business. You don't have individuals making decisions.
Right.
You have these giant corporations, and they get a sheet of a list of like, okay, this is what works. I'm like, no, that's not how fucking humanity works. We're not just statistics. People have emotions, they have feelings.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
But
Weird.
all the people who work for major corporations are clapping right now. Yay.
Yeah.
But that, I mean, I think people should see it just the way that I saw it, just not expecting this thing to go down.
Then why are we talking all this shit about it right now?
That's a good point.
What the fuck's going on? What are we doing?
Let's just sit here for the rest of the show quietly.
Yeah, let's not say anything about it. Let's just say, check it out, but don't think much about it.
Yeah. Even the fact of it was so unique to me, and at the cellar, how many people were not Americans that were in the audience? Yeah,
most of the special is taped at the Cellar's 3 rooms on different nights, and I usually do the early shows there actually, and I think the early shows are a little more international than some of the later shows, and I actually like it because I like, as the world champion, I like talking to people who are from all over the planet and giving my insight onto everything that's going on in the planet. As the world champion, I represent the people of the world.
Yeah.
Not the corporations, but the people of the world. And I fight for their rights. That's what I do as the world champion.
That persona, how did that even come to that? How did you decide?
The world champion persona?
Yeah.
Well, that was a long sort of thing, and it's and it's continued to change. You know, I've been making my own. Was my back too much to this crowd or something? What's that, sir? Quite all right. It's quite all right. Okay, then I'll just turn my back to you. Yeah. Okay. Well, what was the question? I totally forgot. Oh, the world champion persona. Yeah. So, okay, so you got to go back, I think, to somewhere in the 90s. And I remember it seemed like all the comics were, not all the comics, but, you know, so many of the comics were just trying to bond with the audience. You know, like, hey, did you ever notice this? Or don't you hate this? And I'm like, I want to do the opposite. I don't want to bond with the audience. I want to do, you know, something like, so I've been making my own hats for like 20 years. I always thought it was like stupid. You fucking buy something that has the name of the company on it, so you paid them for that, and then you're giving them free advertising going around. I don't understand. I don't know why anyone would want to fucking do that, you know. But anyways, so I decided I'm going to make, and you know, my act was always very joke heavy, you know, and it was always very audience, you know, crowd work heavy.
Yeah.
And when I first started, it wasn't that heavy of a persona. I hadn't really figured that out yet. A lot of my stuff was being really young. I started doing stand-up in the city when I was 19, and you know, and I was kind of like a young-looking 19, so I was a lot younger than most of the people that were around. So a lot of my jokes were sort of like the new young kid, but doing twisted, dark shit. So I made a hat that said world champion. I thought it would be funny if I made a hat that said world champion, but not of what. And then that would get people to ask me questions. And I like doing crowd work. And you're like, what are the world champion of? And that would like get me to come up with jokes for that. And then I was really into like when I was a kid, I was really into the Guinness Book of World Records, and I used to try to like break all these world records. I tried to break the pogo stick record when I was 8 years old for just continuous pogo sticking without missing and just going. I did an hour straight when I was 8, and I think the record at the time was like 12 hours. And I was like, so I did an hour straight without missing. I'm 8, and I'm like, and I didn't get tired, but I was like, mentally, I was like, I really don't want to fucking do this anymore. This is really, it's like, I think I got this, but the person who broke that record must really have nothing going on in their brain, because it's really fucking boring to do that for 12 hours. So anyways, I was really in the Guinness Book of World Records. So I'd been writing these jokes about all these ridiculous athletic achievements I'd made. You know, like bowling a 300 with a golf ball and just all these ridiculous things. So the world champion kind of fit into that, this like super great athlete. And initially it started out as a sort of the dumb guy who thinks he's incredible with all these bragging things. And then it sort of morphed into becoming like, oh, these aren't bragging things. These are actually real, unbelievable things. So the world champion started becoming this real life superhero that's like, not only am I not bragging, I'm actually just humbly stating these amazing things that I do, and I just can't relate that other people can't achieve the greatness that I achieve. And then, you know, then I started doing like, you know, a lot of stuff with martial arts in the jokes, and then sexual achievements during the jokes, and then it started, you know, becoming kind of like sort of like a subliminal satire on narcissism. You know, like when, you know, MySpace was starting, Facebook was starting, everything's just me. And even with athletes, you know, so many athletes just being hot dogs, you know. So it was really kind of a comment on that. And then, you know, over the past, like, I don't know, about 6 or 7 years ago, I started doing shows in Europe. And that's when I started, and I've always been really involved in human rights issues. And anytime just someone's being a fucking dick, you know, I want to, like, speak up for me and other people, you know. So I was doing shows in England. And you know how if you're in a bad relationship, like you might not be able to see it, but all your friends can see it, and they're like, "Why the hell are you going out with that person? Yeah. They're horrible for you." And you're like, "Oh no, I think they're pretty good. I think you know," just giving them excuses. So, but then a few years later, you're out of that relationship. Then you can look back and be like, "Oh wow, that really was the person treated me horribly. I should not have been with that person." So when I started doing shows in Europe, I started initially thinking, "Oh, I'm going to learn a lot about these other countries." What I really learned more was about my own country, because I was able to get some perspective and see it from a distance.
Yeah.
You know? Just, you know, like basic things, you know, like I think in Europe, people are a little more relaxed because they have health care. You know, they don't have to fucking worry so much about shit. They don't have to do fucking fundraiser and sell cupcakes to fucking go to the doctor. So so that got me more interested. I started getting more interested in different human rights issues and activism stuff. And so the world champion it's always morphing, but it's becoming more of someone who is someone who's a superhero for all the people and the plants of the earth, because I could live on any planet I want, but I choose Earth, So I'm here to fight for you. That's what the world champion's all about.
But all that stuff is never like preached. It's always through this ironic.
It's like I don't like telling people what to think. Mm-hmm. I'll tell people what I think, and I'll probably do it in a way where you might not even be sure what I think. You got to fucking think about what I just said because you may not fucking know. So, preachy stuff, it never. Yeah, in general, it just doesn't. Especially when you're preaching to people who already fucking agree with you. I find that to be the most boring thing there is. Yeah. I like when, you get people from all different walks of life and all different points of view.
And the special
makes things interesting.
Special is filled with that. It was amazing to me how because you don't see people crowd work people from other countries. It just doesn't happen.
Interesting. I never even thought of that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things I like about New York is that, it's an international city. It's a tourist city. And, a lot of comics hate the tourists. I'm like, I like them. I like meeting and dealing with people from all over the fucking country and the world.
Yeah.
It gives you different things to learn and play off of.
Well, what brought you, at what age you came to New York? Young, right? Because you didn't grow up in the city. Right?
No, my dad grew up in Brooklyn. And I came here after high school. I don't know. I just kind of always wanted to live in New York.
Yeah.
I think if I was a kid now, I don't know if I would, because I don't know. It seems like the people who watch, who watch Sex in the City and who watch, whatever fucking, Friends. Yeah. Or, like, hey, let's move to New York. I'm like, wow, let me move somewhere else.
Yeah. But I also think it's true. Like,
I would watch these movies. Yeah. I'd watch Serpico and I'd be like, I want to fucking move to New York. It's great.
Yeah.
It's like, the Warriors. Yeah, let's fucking go right now. I want to go. Let's catch the train to Coney Island and fucking go, man. Give the Warriors some backup. I want to fucking do this.
I do think people.
It's like Fame. It's like, I want to dance with Leroy and fucking shut the streets down.
And they're not here now.
Fucking do flips on the street. It'll be fucking awesome. It's like, it's like Beat Street. It's like, let's do graffiti and just fucking breakdance all day and make some money doing that, and then it'd be fucking great. Yeah.
So people do fall in love with the New York that they show up for too. You know what I mean? Like when you get to New York, people say, "Oh, dude, you missed it. It used to be."
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. What are people excited about New York now? Oh wow, $8 donuts, great. This is awesome. Ooh.
Yeah. But
$100 brunch, great. It's like I don't know.
You fell in love with the New York, the New York City that used to draw in artists, that these people would be doing shows, whether they're painting or playing rock and roll or doing comedy for other New Yorkers.
Yeah, you used to live in New York. You used to everyone used to have if you had a window by the fire escape, you put some kind of a gate up or
right.
I know one guy who would put axle grease on the ledge so that if somebody tried to break in, they would slip and then fall 50 feet to their death.
Yeah.
He's like, don't waste your money on the fucking gate, dude. Just put some fucking axle grease on the ledge. Nobody's getting in. Trust me. I'm like, not a bad idea. Not a bad idea at all. There was you were like, all right, I'm going to live cheaply in the fucking most dangerous neighborhood so that I can do what I want to do, whatever your dreams are, and it was that kind of a place, and now it's like the how expensive the city has gotten has become more oppressive than the crime was.
Sure. Yeah, there is some truth to that.
It's harder to do art in the city where it's just so fucking expensive.
Yeah.
So interesting.
It wasn't...
but I used to come up to New York in the early 80s. I remember coming up here in 81 and, me and my brother going to Playland in Times Square, they had 3 of them. It was 24-hour video game arcade where you just, and that was exciting because you'd be playing Pac-Man and, people are stacking their quarters on there, which means they're going to get the next game. People are bumping into you. You don't know if you're going to get robbed. It just made fucking video games really exciting.
Yeah. Back when
now everyone just does it in the safety of their homes or over the internet. No, back then you had to worry about getting stabbed, robbed, and people just fucking bumping you on purpose so you fuck up during the game. It was great. Wouldn't have it any other way. It's fucking great.
But it is still a dangerous city in the way that, you know, you could break your ankle and end up losing your apartment if you miss, you know, your rent immediately. Now, the whole thing, people sit, instead of being worried about being robbed, they're like, am I being robbed every time I order dinner here? Is it
Right,
so
yeah,
expensive?
no, it's
Yeah.
corporate theft or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, no, it's hard. It's hard. I mean, I've lived here since '87, and it's like I haven't had an apartment in 6 weeks. I forgot to tell you, I'm not living anywhere right now. I've always rented. I'm trying to buy. It's taken a while, so I'm like doing like 2 to 3 weeks in town in like cheap hotels in Queens, and then I'm you know, on the road like a week or two. But it's weird. I don't know how to live in this city anymore.
Well,
I still like it.
Yeah.
I still love it, but I don't know. I don't want to fight for it, but I don't know how to live it anymore.
This is literally my first homeless interview. I've always, well, I wanted to do more hard-hitting journalism. So we're doing it.
Sometimes people rip on me and they say you look homeless, and now I can be like, I am technically. I'm technically homeless. I mean, I'm lucky. I have some money so I can get in hotels, but yeah. So I'll find a place one of these days. But I literally don't know where the fuck to live in this city. Yeah.
It is completely
because
different.
when I'm in town, I do multiple shows every night, and then you know I often have to do things in the city during the day. So if I live far out, if I live an hour out into Queens, which I used to do, you know, I have to come in during the day, go back home, then come in again at night, and sometimes I have to commute 2 or 3 times a day, and it's too much. It's like 6 hours, you know. So I don't know.
And you haven't thought to yourself, hey, I'll leave. I'll go somewhere
I've thought
else.
that before, but I'm not really sure where I would go.
Unfortunately, everywhere you go looks like Brooklyn now when you go out to eat. No matter where you go, they're like, oh, you know, they have that. What do they call it when there's like stuff? The Edison bulbs are every fucking where.
What is that? I don't know.
It's like a bulb just hanging down. There's nothing on it, you know. And it used to
that's
be
like a cool look.
Yeah, and it used to be people in Brooklyn they couldn't afford any shades, and they're like, we'll just put these up. And now people are like, okay, let's
interesting.
do that.
Well, I think the cities across the nation are all getting much more expensive and more populated. I think the young people, like the people under 30 who, you know, generally the higher educated and the higher income earning, they don't want that suburban life. They want to live in the city. They want to go out and eat every night. They want to party. They want to, you know, so all the cities are getting, you know, people are getting pushed out who've been in the cities for a long time. And, you know, so it's weird.
It is, and remember when we were younger, people were leaving the cities.
You're right. In the 70s, I think New York lost like 1 million people. They just got the fuck out.
Yeah.
And now more and more keep coming.
But
they're not building things for the community. Like I was in Long Island City, they must have 20 skyscrapers now. I still don't think there is a grocery store.
Right. Yes, that's true. It's like, but that is true. You look at Long Island City, and it's got a bigger skyline than cities that have football teams.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the hell is going on?
And they still have the same amount of subway access. So it's like I took the L train the other day in Williamsburg. I get off the L train, not even during rush hour. There was a wait just to leave the station. There was a wait to get to the stairs to walk up. And I'm like, this is fucking ridiculous. You know, the infrastructure isn't supporting it.
Roosevelt Island is now the 10th biggest city in America. I don't know how that happened.
I call Roosevelt Island the 6th borough. No, that island gets no respect, dude. Any place where you have to take a bucket to get there, you gotta literally a sky bucket to get to it. I just think that's awesome.
Yes, it's daring.
There's one train and a bucket, you know.
I love the fact that you just keep holding on to being an individual. Like you said, some people tease you about your look, but that's a look that you've chose.
Yeah, no, I remember someone saying to me, why don't you cut your hair? You're never going to get on Friends. And I was like, I don't want to be on Friends, you know. No offense to anyone who's on Friends, you know, I don't know. Could be
somewhere
nice
Jennifer Aniston is crying.
No. She might be crying, I don't know, but hopefully she feels better. She'll survive. But what were we talking about?
Well, we were basically about your look.
That's one of the reasons why I do a lot of crowd work, is because I often just fucking forget shit. So then I just improvise.
And you jump into the next person. Hey.
Yeah, because there's some comics who'll do, like when they're doing an hour, they do the exact same thing from, it's like they have a list of jokes and just fucking goes through it. I don't know. I like to be more instinctual, I guess, because I think even for the audience, it's like you don't want to see the exact same presentation. It's like it's a live show. It should be different than what you're seeing on TV or whatever.
I thought of this when because I saw you do so many sets last year, and I stayed for all your sets because you always kill me. But then I didn't see that material in the special. There was so much stuff in the special.
Well, then you got to tell me what stuff is not in there so I can put that in the next one. So. No, I forget a lot of stuff. So, yeah.
Well, you brought up your look and not getting on Friends, but from your acting career, you've done more projects, I think, than a lot of people who just focus on acting and nothing else.
Yeah,
you've done a lot of stuff.
I haven't done a lot recently, but I used to do a lot. And like I said, I like filmmaking. I used to do animation when I was a kid. I do clay animation, drawing animation, and I think filmmaking is an interesting art form. I think it's usually not an art form the way people do it. I mean, there's most movies stink, and
right.
Really bad dialogue and just horrible, but I like interesting, weird, or even not, they may not be weird, but just, interesting, quality movies. I like them. But so I used to do a fair amount, and I've done some terrible movies, and I was lucky to be in some very good movies. And I would completely change my look. Like some people might see me, hey, you ever take the hat off, wherever? I'm like, yeah, I have. And here's 10 movies where I fucking had no hat and had short hair and, had an accent and, but, yeah, so I like doing that. I think doing things in different art forms stand-up's always my main thing, but when you get into different art forms, they can all kind of feed each other, I think, and you can grow. Like radio, I fucking love doing radio. Stand-up is different. Stand-up is, at least for me and my philosophy, it's almost like a highlight reel where you have to have big laughs about
all the time,
3 seconds or so. But in this medium that we're doing right now, you can go a few minutes without laughing, and and people will still be there listening. You can get serious, you can get funny. It's got different ebbs and flows that stand-up really doesn't have.
Yeah.
I certainly wouldn't want to be doing stand-up where there's 5 minutes without any laughs. I wouldn't.
No,
I don't care what the fuck I'm talking about. How important it is. I'm not going to put that in a stand-up act. That another medium that can be in, but not stand-up.
But you think of so many things as art, which a lot of performers don't anymore, whether it is film or stand-up or anything.
And I don't mean that in a pretentious way. Like when you say, "Oh, I'm art," that could be depending on if you're pretentious or not. Yeah, that could be fucking pretentious. But it really shouldn't be a pretentious statement. It's really just looks like. I mean, it's really just about like look, this is a job, and I'm trying to do this, and that's all it is. There's no business behind it. When I say this is my art, I mean there's no business. I'm just trying to do the best work I can in what this is, and I'm not thinking about career. I'm not thinking about is somebody going to buy this. I'm just thinking about me and the audience, and that's it. So the audience is really in stand-up, the audience is a mix of the recipient as well as judge and as well as partner, really.
Yes.
I mean, there's no stand-up without an audience.
Yeah.
I sometimes worry that live stand-up's going to go away and it's just going to be internet comedians. It's just going to be people talking their cameras. But that would be fucking horrible. But,
yes. Yeah. But there is something about being out, and having you're always when you see a special or comedy on TV. It's always a generation or two back. It's not the same as being there that night,
No, it's not the same. No, and that was what I was trying to do with this was make it as as much as I could. Just it's like you're there that night. Checking things out. So
it's incredibly because I brought up the visuals of this thing, but the content is incredibly funny. I mean, it's killer all the way through it.
Just keep talking. You're on a roll. It's great. Just do more of that, and think that's what we need. It's just,
Yeah.
that's just awesome.
But I think that one of the reasons was because you had total control. Somebody wasn't telling you, here's how we're presenting this. I think even when that happens, it takes
Yes,
it out of
and
the art.
I think it's also, it's hard with stand up because, when you put in a camera, sometimes people might. You don't want to be too invasive with the cameras because then you don't want the audience to always be thinking, "Oh, there's a camera there."
Yeah.
You want them just to be not thinking about anything, just wrapped up in the show. So I had ideas initially for like different angles, but I think they were too invasive of the audience. So
I saw somebody recently put together a Tonight Show set, and I saw them at different clubs, and I felt like, oh, I don't know, I think they should throw this out and kind of come up with a new idea. And by the time they got to the Tonight Show, it was the same jokes, and the audience was going crazy. And I think a lot of that has to be the Tonight Show audience wants to be a great TV audience. You know what I mean? So they were applauding.
yeah, when you watch
places.
comedy on TV, you hear people applauding. You generally don't hear people laughing.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, yep, he did that.
Yeah.
He did the Trump. He's got an orange face joke. Yep, let's
Right.
applaud for that, or whatever fucking hack, fucking
Yeah.
line there is, or obvious kind of thing. It's like it's almost like cheering. It's like those late night TV monologue jokes. I mean, some are great, but a lot are just this. It's just this formulaic. It's like, hey, I noticed the twist there, so yep, let's applaud that.
Yes.
We saw the twist. So it's. I don't know. I quit trying to do stand up on TV about 15 years ago. I've done it on a few. I've done it a few times, but it's just, I don't know. I find showbiz just gives so little respect towards stand-up so many times, and
Sure.
maybe things have changed a little bit now. I don't know, because like I said, I haven't even tried. But let's say the show, whatever talk show it is, they want you to do stand-up. They're like, hey, we're going to have you on, and now you have to go through this process, and sometimes it's months of tweaking your act, and it's like. They don't do that with bands,
Sure.
They don't hire a band on the show and then have someone follow them around and switch the riffs around and the lyrics around.
It is true. I've never thought of that.
But with comics and jokes, they do that all the fucking time. And I'm like, no, get the fuck out of here. You don't know anything about stand-up, and you don't know anything about my stand-up. It's like stand-up is not. To me, it's an individual art form. So that which goes back to the conformity, not fitting in or whatever. It's like I don't fit in any clique. I'm not in. Sometimes people might think I'm in a clique, but I'm not in any clique, and I'm fine with that. And I realize it can be very lonely, it can be depressing, but that's what it is.
Was that always in your life, even when you were a kid?
I was always a loner and an outcast. I was never in any kind of clique or whatever, and yeah, I was always made fun of for looks or whatever, or but that's just the way it is. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what percentage of people are assholes. I think it's pretty high. And I don't know what percentage of people are good. That might be kind of high too. But the assholes, I think, are often louder than the people who are good. So I think more people who are good need to maybe get a little more active and speak up a little bit, because if you're just quiet, the fucking assholes get the power.
Yeah.
Like example, I was on the subway. This was like 2 months ago. I'm on the subway. Some crazy guy comes on, and it's just nonstop yelling at the top of his lungs about Jesus and the Bible. The train is body-to-body people. Nobody fucking wanted to hear this. Does anyone tell him to shut up? Nope. Everyone just ignores, and then he gets to do whatever he wants. And that
Right.
shows you that there's no such thing as majority rule. Majority rule is a myth, That's minority. He's one fucking guy on a train of 200 people, and he was the fucking king.
Yeah, right.
He was the king. He got his way. No one else got their way, and that yet the majority theoretically should have the power. So
Yeah, and that's kind of, in a weird way, the business.
Yes,
You know what I mean? Like, it's a couple people get to the top and they decide this is the way we want.
Well,
this
that's
to
the whole
run.
thing. Like when people say in like showbiz, oh, they believe the cream rises to the top. It's like, no, it doesn't. That's bullshit. This isn't sports. When Usain Bolt wins the 100-meter dash or whatever, he's probably the fastest fucking guy. It's not because he hung out with the fucking Olympic Committee president or something. you know, he was probably just the fastest fucking guy, you know. And in showbiz, there's so much gray area. So there's, you know, that's why you see shitty stuff go up, and you know. So I mean, sometimes it works out. Yeah, sometimes quality stuff does rise to the top, but there's a lot of times it doesn't. You know.
I was just actually thinking this, that if you were Usain Bolt, you'd probably be running 91 meters or 107 meters. But I'm not doing just 100.
I actually, I didn't want to mention this, but when there was a marathon, I didn't mean to run the marathon, but I just wanted to do some errands. And I wound up winning the marathon, and before I left, I turned on the 100-meter race with Usain Bolt, and when I got back to the marathon, he was just finishing. He was just finishing the cross. So, just finished it. Yeah.
He's the world champion.
Yeah.
Do you think if you didn't have the success that you've had, you'd still be doing this, or you know, would you stay?
You're talking athletically, or
No,
talking...
I meant comedically. Athletically, you're always going to have success.
I still don't feel, you know. I still feel like I'm in the Rocky 1 phase of my career.
Yeah.
I still feel like I haven't been given the title shot yet, you know, because most people know me. I think more and more people have been knowing me from stand-up, but more know me from, you know, from different acting things that I've done, you know, and those, I almost always took those acting things to try to help my stand-up career, you know, and then, you know, I think not releasing stand-up products before has, you know, inhibited the, you know, career-wise, you know, not creatively-wise, but career-wise, you know, so hopefully, you know, I just hope a lot of people see this, you know, and then they do whatever they want with it, you know, but you know, I think whenever, you know, you're an artist or performer, you just want as many people as you can to see it, you know, and hopefully they'll enjoy it, you know.
Well, I do know this. Anyone who's funny thinks that you're hilarious. I mean, you have.
That's good, because I don't know.
Yeah.
I sometimes have no idea what people think or judge me as. So I sometimes just don't know, and I just try to, you know, do my thing, you know, and just you know, work as hard as I can and progress and always work on new stuff as much as I can, and just leave it at that, really, you know, because like I hate show business. I don't like show business at all. Lot of phonies, a lot of bullshit, a lot of people who don't fucking know anything. Or don't care, really. And then, you know, so I just try to, if you just focus on the art of it, you know, then, you know, you're going to have less problems, I think, you know.
Well, I know when Attell put together that show of his that he shot for Comedy Central, and he brought you into that. I know how.
Oh, that was the Comedy Underground.
Yeah, the Comedy Underground.
I like that.
And I know how fond of you that he was, like the whole time that we did an interview, and the whole time you were talking, he's falling out, and I'm like, "There's one of the funniest human beings."
Oh,
I've
great!
ever
Oh,
seen.
Dave's a legend. I love Dave.
And he's, you know, crazy about you.
Oh, that's
you know?
cool. No, Dave's great. Always been super kind to me.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very good dude. Nice guy, and you know, one of the greats in my opinion. I don't rank people, but one of the greats.
Yeah.
I mean, phenomenal. You know, joke writer and attitude and everything. I mean, phenomenal.
And that was a show that he did where he shot things differently and stuff like that.
Yeah, he did. And it didn't get picked up, that show. I thought it was great. Didn't get picked up.
And I talked to a TV producer, and they were like, I hated the way that show was shot. And I go, that was one of my favorite things about that show.
Yeah.
Is that somebody in the audience would just be holding a GoPro.
Right. Yeah, no, he gave them
great.
little. He had some people in the audience hold little cameras.
Yeah.
And they would cut to those angles sometimes. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's showbiz is weird, man. I don't know.
Well, even the books that you've done are very much yours. They don't, once again, come across as a book.
Right,
you know?
right. No, my first book was an instructional karate book.
Yeah.
Called How to Beat Up Anybody. And,
How to Beat Up Anybody.
Yeah, very important book.
I always wonder how many kids went, oh, this is the book for me.
I hope a lot, but I don't know. I don't think that many people bought any of my books, but I think they came out well. And my other book was a book of drawings and cartoons. A lot of them were just funny and bizarre, and then a lot of them were sort of like, you know, satire on, you know, corporatization of America and racism, sexism, different things. So.
And tell people the name of that.
Oh, that's If the Raindrops United.
If the Raindrops United, and on the cover is just this giant raindrop coming down on a city. But the message is there.
If people get together, you can have some power. It could be used for good or for evil, but you can at least have power. Yeah.
Were you surprised when you ended up working for 30 Rock at NBC? Was that a shock for you?
I never planned on doing a sitcom. Never planned on it. And, I also like doing different things and not doing the same thing over and over again. The idea of having playing the same character for a long time gave me a lot of anxiety. Work took me out to L.A. for 2 years in the early 2000s. And shortly after I got back, I got the audition for 30 Rock. And when that happened, I was like, well, it's Tina Fey's writing it. Because sometimes when they do sitcoms, they'll get high-paid, theoretically better quality writers the first season, and then after it gets successful, they just fucking get cheap and bring in another. At least that's what I was told. So, but I figure, all right, well, Tina's really good, and she's starring in it, so she's not going to quit writing it. So the writing should stay solid, And it filmed in New York, and I was like, I'll fucking going on this, And at the same time, there was another show that Aaron Sorkin was producing called Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, which was a dramatic look at a live TV sketch comedy show. And they wanted me to, and I read the script, and I thought dramatically it was good. I thought comedically it was not good. And I didn't even want to audition for it. And then the agent sort of like convinced me to go in on it, and I did. And they wound up offering me a recurring role, where 30 Rock was a regular role, and a lot of people were telling me to go with the Aaron Sorkin one because that's going to be the really good one. And I'm like, no, I'll go for the other one. So, and then a few years later, at one of the Emmy things, I ran into Aaron Sorkin. I didn't even know who it was at first. He came up to me, shook my hand, and said, "Boy, did you make the right decision." So I actually thought, I was like, oh, wow, that was pretty cool. That was like my one interaction with him. That was pretty cool.
I always think it's funny, too, because people will look at you like you're, an outsider and so strange. But then on that show that you're on, it's Tracy Morgan and Alec Baldwin are on it. So you come across as kind of a normal, regular guy.
Yeah, Frank was a weird character because he was very kind of like just like a blue-collar, regular kind of guy. But then he also was just very malleable. Like I remember there was one episode where Tina's character, Liz Lemon, had to leave, and so I kind of became the head writer, and then I just started physically morphing into Liz Lemon. I had it's like Frank almost had no backbone. He was like, he viewed himself as this rebel guy, but really he was a total fucking wimp who could just be molded into anything, Like I wanted to become a corporate lawyer one episode, and then one episode I turned gay for one guy for one episode. It's like, so Frank was really kind of weird. He was like this sort of normal guy. We were like, wow, maybe he really is fucking weird underneath, But yeah, it was a fun character to play. And then some people sometimes think my stand-up act's going to be just like the Frank was. I'm like, no, it's actually quite a bit. I'm like, we look similar, but it's quite a bit different.
And you never use that, like when you go on stage, you never kind of use the things that you've done before. A lot of people go, okay, well, they would bring up American Splendor and thing, but you just kind of walk up and do your thing.
It's its own thing, It has nothing to do with any, those TV or movie things, Yeah, I mean, I don't know. To be stand-up's the most fun, It's just like I said, you just fucking walk on stage, That's it. It's live. No filming can be a very monotonous, repetitive business, I mean, editing this stand-up special I did was really a lot of anxiety.
Months and months, right?
Yeah, and I have OCD too, so it's like when you have to like make a cut, it's like it's mentally can be really fucking hard, and I'll just keep changing things a couple frames at a time. Then after a while, I'm like, oh, what the fuck am I doing? I got to walk away from this.
Yeah,
I'm doing too much.
But OCD is something that you deal with all the time.
It goes through phases, you know. So, but it can be, it can be good for some things too.
Well,
actually,
and
even ADD, I have some of that too. That can be good too.
Yeah.
For crowd work, ADD is actually good. And people are like, wow, you didn't do any jokes, just a crowd work. I'm, yeah, I can't fucking focus and remember any of my jokes, so I'm going to just fucking play off the crowd.
There's always an interesting thing with guys who do crowd work is that there's some audiences that are kind of meek and there's no kind of alphas in it that want to talk, and a lot of guys will be turned off. But that for you love that kind of weird little lulls that take
Yeah,
place.
because I like a challenge, and I like finding comedy in places you wouldn't think they're at. So I like doing that, you know. So, I mean, that's why I like it. And this special, you know, I talk a lot about a lot of human rights issues, you know, racism, you know, classism, sexism. But, you know, I do it in a way, like you said, that it's not preachy, but I like finding, you know, I've always liked doing dark, twisted stuff. And, you know, when you're talking about white supremacy, mass incarceration, you know, to get humor out of there is like, that's not the easiest thing to do, technically, you know.
Right.
But when I could get to that point and do it, I like, and especially, and not in a preachy way, just a fucking bizarre, twisted way. You know, I like doing that. You know, I don't like the easy joke. I like, you know, let's say like there's a you know, a real heavy guy in the audience and he heckles. When I slam him back, the last thing I'm going to do is do any like fat jokes or anything like that. I don't ever like to go for the easy stuff. You know, I always like to find some angle that hasn't been, you know, gone to before.
And also, if anyone tries to kiss up to you, you turn that on them as well.
Yeah,
it's hilarious.
You know, I always do like a mix of just absolutely just obliterating people.
Yeah.
And praising them too. And sometimes I'll do like a mix.
Yeah.
I like doing that.
Just changing the mood of the room. One of the things that you always seem like you just whatever your mood you're in, we're taking you into another direction.
Yeah, well, sometimes also, you know, like I love it. I love when you host here. You're a great host. But sometimes in the city, seriously, fucking great host. Seriously.
Stop.
Fucking great. No.
Stop it.
No, when you host here at the stand,
yeah.
First of all, I love doing your radio show, and I just, you know, some people make you smile in life. You're one of those people, you make me smile. You have a warmth to you, and it comes out. And I'm just fucking telling you how I feel.
Keep going.
So,
There's
yeah,
more.
And as a host, that stuff is infectious, you know, and you, between acts, you take your time. There's so many hosts up there, and when they're hosting and, you know, bring it back, it really seems like they're in some kind of competition to bring the next act up as fast as possible and to be on stage for as little as time as possible. Like sometimes they'll be like, hey, Judah, the show's running a little late, so I'm going to bring up it real quick. I'm like, no, fucking let the audience resettle, regroup, and say my name. Don't just go up there and scream my name as fast as you can. You're not fucking helping anything there. So sometimes when there's shitty hosts, you have to go up there and for the first 2 minutes be your own host and recreate and refocus the audience, you know. So I do that sometimes.
Well, I think that a lot of times it happens in comedy now that we forget it's a whole show for the audience. Everybody think it's just their segment.
No, you know, I grew up playing sports. I was a big soccer guy, and when you play team sports, you really kind of I think it can help you see the bigger picture.
Right.
And, you know, and even in humanity, everyone here, we all got our own worlds, we all got our own problems. Everyone, you know, you're all a little part of something bigger. And if everyone can do just something a little bit better, no matter what it is, that can make everyone else a little bit better.
You still love soccer, too. I know you did.
Soccer and ping pong are my two sports. Those are my two sports.
And
I love all sports, but those are the two that I play.
By the way, for all the world champion stuff, you should see this dude play ping pong.
I'm actually better at soccer. For real, better at soccer.
Now I got to see that.
I'm telling you, the world champion is real. Okay? Now, on this special, on the title, it doesn't say world champion. Mm-hmm. And that's because I respect the audience, and I respect their smarts and their education to know that I am a great athlete and I'm still the world champion. So it doesn't need to be said. It's understood.
It is understood.
It's understood.
Yeah.
Like people know
that
I'm the world champion still. Yeah.
But
undefeated.
But you know, to get back to what he expects out of the audience and where his material, the special opens up. He's just on stage, and you're talking about gentrification, but then comparing it to your own beard, and it's one of the funniest. it's one of the
Well, you
funniest
just
things I
fucking
see.
told them the joke, right?
Yeah.
There.
But it's one of the
Sorry.
it's one of the funniest things that I've ever seen. But
Thanks, man.
isn't it weird to know that the fact that we have these younger people that we kind of raised not to be racist, that we've chased more people of color out of the city than, because moving into the neighborhoods.
It's very, it's bizarre and weird, and there's, I mean, racism is such a loaded and big issue, but the idea that only your low income Southern white people are the racists is just one of the biggest myths out there.
Right.
It's bigotry exists in all kinds of levels and everywhere. I have a new joke. It's not in the in this special, but where I say, Republicans are racist, Democrats are racist, racism, it doesn't discriminate. So, it's part of the fabric that is woven throughout our country and throughout the world, so it's something you got to, fight against. But you're 100% right on that hypocrisy.
It just keeps it's a daily thing, man. It's a daily thing. I got to tell you, the special comes out on Netflix, and I'm not kidding when I think this is one of the finest stand-ups I've ever seen. I'm always watching it, but I did not think the special would be accepted anywhere, and I thought that all winter. And again, you're such a unique guy, and this is the way I kind of think of Judah when I see you off going stuff. You ever see like a painter who'll have like a nice jacket on, but then there's little flecks of paint because he can't stop painting? That's the way I see Judah with comedy. There's always little flecks of comedy all over you, no matter what you're doing.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
I wish you all the luck with this special, dude.
Thanks
you deserve
so much,
it.
and thanks for the kind words. And I just hope hope people dig it and hope people watch it. And if you do watch it and like it, write this will help me. Write a little comment or review on the Netflix thing saying you liked it.
All right.
If you didn't like it, don't fucking write anything.
Yeah, don't do anything.
Keep that shit to yourself, man.
All right. The show is called Unmasked, and once we took off the mask, we found out this is the world champion, ladies and gentlemen. Judah Friedlander.
Thank you for the love, everybody. Rod, thanks so much. Love you, buddy.